On with the law. And some of this is going to seem kind of strange to you. You've probably already seen that. Some of these laws and whatnot we look at, and they just don't match up with what we see in the world today, but not as much as you think. We have, I think the key to looking at these is God does not want Israel to be like the other countries that are around it. And that's kind of what I look at when I look at some of these laws. So with that, let me pray it up and then we'll go on. Lord, thank you for your word. Thank you for the clarity that Moses brings to a lot of things that we experience even today. And I pray that I'm able to discuss that clearly also. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we're in Deuteronomy chapters 21 and 23. And as we continue, the first thing I want to say is they didn't have J. Warner Wallace. He's the famed cold case detective in Los Angeles. He's also an apologist. And he was actually at the church here in the fall at the Maven conference. We got to talk to him. But back then they didn't have that. When you had a murder that couldn't be solved, somebody's killed out in a field somewhere and nobody could ID who the person was, there was this litany of things that they had to do, Israel had to do, to not have any corporate responsibility for what happened. I think the reason for that is they didn't want this person to just kind of, oh, Joe was killed out in the field, let's go on with life. This is a big deal. So let me read this part. If a slain person is found lying in the open country, in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess, and it is not known who has struck him, then a couple things are going to happen. The elders of the city shall take a heifer of the herd, has not been worked, and which has not pulled a yoke. They'll bring that heifer down to a valley with running water, which has not been plowed or sown, and shall break the heifer's neck here in the valley. And then the priests are going to show up. If you're in a small community and this goes on, are you going to forget it? This is a big deal. I mean, you got priests coming, you got the elders of the church, they're doing all this stuff, everybody's having to go down. I imagine it's a spectacle. These cities typically aren't very big. And what they did is they said, okay, you died in Fred's field, and how close is Fred's field to whatever towns or cities are around? They go to the nearest one. Okay? So, when you look at this kind of a situation, you go, why in the world would you do this? Down at the bottom here, you see, for the Lord God has chosen, I'm talking about the priests, to serve him and to bless in the name of the Lord, and every dispute and every assault shall be settled by them. They're like the judges too, okay? The priests are. So, what do? And all the elders of the city which is nearest to the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley, and they shall answer and say, our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it. They broke its neck. Forgive your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, O Lord, and do not place the guilt of innocent blood in the midst of your people Israel, and the blood guiltiness shall be forgiven them. So you shall remove the guilt of innocent blood from your midst when you do what is right in the eyes of the Lord. So the heifer basically takes the place of the person killed in this ceremony. What else can you see from what these guys are having to say? Any thoughts?
Well, is the heifer taking the place of the person who died, or is he taking the place of the person who did the killing?
He's taking the place of the person who died, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he was.
Yeah, that's a different thought. But yeah.
Okay.
I personally, I think it's like, chances are the murderer came from the area. Okay, so this is the nearest city. If somebody in that city did this and these elders know, are they going to be able to say that? Even though they did this to the heifer. I think it kind of puts a little pressure on the community to say, hey, we just really don't know. And so.
So are you assuming that it's only people that they could see visible marks? Because I mean, just bluntly, I have a friend that a few years ago, she passed away shoveling snow and her husband found her laying in the.
Yeah.
Now we know what killed her because
Yeah.
modern, but somebody could have kicked off from a heart attack or gotten,
Well, I think the inference is from that other
you think
thing is that they
so
were
they see,
slain.
so
They
you think
struck
they
them.
see marks of some kind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably found a rock in their head, whatever. And they could see that.
Yeah, so if it's visible, got it.
Yeah, but they didn't have DNA and they didn't have fingerprints, technology and all this other stuff as witnesses against somebody.
Sure.
And so, when it became a cold case, it was probably pretty quick. It isn't like now. We've got boxes of evidence sitting there from 35 years ago and people periodically working it to try and figure if they can figure it out. And, it's amazing what they can do, but back then they didn't. Well, so God did not want them to just, the guy died and he was killed and that's the end of it.
Makes sense.
The other thing that I think is important is he did not want Israel to have a reputation like nations around it. If I say south side of Chicago, I know you're thinking Leroy Brown, right? Bad lawyer.
Who?
He did. South. You never heard Jim Croce? Yeah, you need to go hear the song. But the south side of Chicago is renowned for being a violent place. This is something that God does not want the reputation of the whole nation to be this place you want to be careful going through. Okay?
I thought it was renowned for popes.
It's been the #1 murder capital in the U.S. for a lot of years,
Yeah.
off and on.
No, the Pope. Did you see
The
that?
Pope.
The Pope.
Yeah.
What do they do with the heifer?
They don't have, there's no instruction.
They have a barbecue immediately following.
Yeah, probably. I don't
That's
know.
what
They do with all the other things they kill.
Yeah. So, yeah, nothing in the law here that describes that, but pretty amazing thing they have to do. And it just tells you a lot about the value of life is really important in God's economy, and that isn't necessarily true in the nations that surrounded them where, they were burning their children and everything else, kind of crazy. So anyway, that is kind of a strange thing that they did, but it serves a purpose, and it's kind of reflected in our society in the fact that we don't let these things just die in a box somewhere. We try to find out who the guilty party is. So this is another one. So if a man has committed a sin worthy of death and he's put to death and you hang him on a tree, his corpse shall not hang all night on the tree, but you shall surely bury him the next day, for he is hanged is accursed of God, so that you do not defile your land which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance. Common in foreign cultures to leave the person hanging on the tree as a deterrent. People would come by, Nero was putting Christians and hanging them like tiki torches back when he was in charge of Rome. And God did not want that happening in Israel. Life was important. Now, in Galatians 3, of course, we know Christ was taken down pretty quickly, right? So why was that? You have any
So he was cursed.
Yeah, well, so he was cursed for us, okay, because he did, and that says that in Galatians 3. But so Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus go and they get the body off, right? So are they trying to fulfill this law from Deuteronomy 21?
It's Passover.
Isn't it because of the Sabbath?
Passover. they were
Yeah,
doing.
Passover was coming up, right? And it's not supposed to hang overnight. And they had to get done with that pretty quick so that they could participate in Passover. How about the other leaders of Israel? Did they care about this?
They should have, it would have been the custom in the land.
Exactly. Isn't it funny that these two guys had to go to Pilate to get the body, and the leaders who had just had him crucified are just, they don't care about this law either. I mean, the whole thing was illegal. The trials were illegal. Everything that led up to the crucifixion was illegal. And they didn't care about this. I think it's just kind of fascinating about how far afoot they were. Most of the time people got stoned. Okay? Hanging wasn't, I don't think, the most common punishment in Israel. But we see a lot of stoning going on.
Well, and by hanging here though, are we talking about they were crucified and left to hang on the tree, or on the cross that they were crucified on?
Probably the Romans would have, I would think normally. They would.
And that's what I'm,
Yeah.
because you don't, as far as when we say hang on out on the tree, my first thought is they crucified somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, not hanging, because
Yeah.
you go ask the average American that doesn't know anything about the Bible, you say they hung somebody from a tree, they figure they threw a noose over a branch.
Yeah.
And hung them. Because in the early Western days, they would leave
They
people.
could have.
I think it probably applies to both.
Well, they were rustling the heifer. And,
Yeah.
you know. Who
I
knows?
thought it was Roman custom though to leave the bodies on the,
Yes.
on the
As a
ground.
A
deterrent.
deterrent, yeah.
And I think that was common in the area too. It wasn't, but Israel's supposed to be different.
Because didn't Judas hang himself with a rope? So
Yeah.
I think both apply, and both are death by asphyxiation.
Yeah.
And I think both count as them being hung on a tree. So I think this applies to both hanging
Yeah.
with a rope and crucifixion.
Yeah.
I don't know why it wouldn't apply to just both.
Well, I think it would apply, I just don't think they hung a lot of people by the neck until
Yeah.
dead. I don't remember reading a whole lot of that kind of.
That's fair. I know Judas did, so it is.
Yeah.
If it
That's a
was,
good point, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, sanctity of life in Israel was supposed to be on a different level than it was in the surrounding nations. They were to be different.
Yeah.
And you can see that there. Now, still in chapter 21, which is most of it's about life. So this does not have anything to do with the nations they are supposed to wipe out. Okay? This is beyond the Holy Land if they go to war with a nation that's beyond the Promised Land. Because you couldn't do this, okay? So let me read this. When you go out to battle against your enemies and the Lord your God delivers them into your hands and you take them away captive, they were allowed to take slaves from these nations, right? See among the captives a beautiful woman who did and have a desire for her and would take her as a wife for yourself, then you shall bring her home to your house and she shall shave her head and trim her nails. Let me stop here. That was a common purification rite in the nations around the Middle East. Okay, so it sounds punitive to us, but it wasn't. That was a common kind of a thing that would happen. But what happens after this is different. So she shall remove the clothes of her captivity. She is not to be regarded as a slave or a captive any longer. And shall remain in your house and mourn her father and mother a full month. So she's probably not going to see him again if they're alive. If they were killed in the battle or whatever, she's not going to see him again. But this isn't normally how someone in this situation would be treated. So we can see this, her personal rights and value as a person, the sanctity of life are really reflected in this whole thing. And after that, you become her husband. And after that too, and this is interesting, do you see a problem with verse 14?
Yes.
And what's the problem?
Selling her after
Well,
making her your wife?
you
Or
can't-
sorry,
must
you
not.
just putting her away after you've made her your wife.
Yeah, this is divorce, isn't it? Isn't it
At least
interesting?
estrangement, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a separation here permanently.
God is regulating something that he doesn't necessarily approve of, because he's dealing with people. And isn't it amazing in the law here? Remember, he allowed the Israelites to divorce because of the hardness of their heart. He's allowing the same situation here. What's different too is this lady is allowed to go wherever she wishes. She is a free person. She's no longer considered a captive or a slave. And so, and you can't mistreat her, you can't sell her for money, all these things. So you can just see, again, the sanctity of life issues here, and you know, there's some rights here that get conferred to this person in the law that Moses put out here.
I do
So-
struggle with it though, you had to have too, because
Oh yeah,
marriage is sick, I mean, it's pretty clear on, there's a few areas, and even then, he wants you to work it out,
yeah,
where, you know, Christy can dislike me all she wants, she's not supposed to get rid of me. She may not talk to me, not that I would do anything about any of this, but they don't do it that, I mean, that he basically says, yeah, you can just let her go. That's interesting, because that doesn't match up in my mind of what marriage is in the eyes of God.
But again, she's a captive,
Right.
and.
Well, not at this point, she's been,
Well,
it says it
but,
right there,
yeah, but
she's
if
not.
she's been a captive that the guy said, I wanna marry her, and then goes through that process. And if I was that woman and I didn't like this guy, I would be a bad wife, and then I could get kicked out and I have my freedom.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. She may not know the law though. Divorce no, murder yes, kind of thing.
Steve,
There you
you
go.
I think, if we read this as a teaching about divorce, I think we can get
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that
You know.
really wrapped up in that. But I don't, that to me is just incidental in this passage.
So there's some reason.
Well, yeah, but it's really talking about the woman and gaining freedom. And
Yeah.
this is a situation where she gains her freedom.
So she is a bad wife, so
Well,
she can get her freedom.
But what does freedom gain her?
Not that she's in a foreign land and everything else, but again, she's a free person. But I would think that you're in a foreign place and you're not that familiar with everything going on. You're probably not going to be that anxious to get in that society all of a sudden.
Maybe you could go back home.
It's possible. She could. I mean, it says that. in
I think-
Israel.
I kind of read this as similar to when Moses is like, hey, here's how you exactly perfectly wipe out these nations. And then the next thing he's like, so when you're marrying people from these nations.
Oh, no. This is not for those people.
No, I know, I'm just saying that it seems similar to me in that there's like this thing that we know should happen, and then he's providing contingencies on the other side. This seems similar to me where we know divorce
That makes sense.
is not okay, and it's like, hey, when this happens, here's, you know, when you divorce,
Yeah.
you are not to sell her for money, you shall not mistreat her. So
Yeah.
it seems like Moses is like, hey, I know these people, so, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
divorce her, but
That's
treat her this way rather than,
Yeah.
you know, this way. I
Just
think.
don't be confused,
That's fair.
because this is not, and it says it, I can't remember, it was chapter 2 before, it's not to apply to the Hittites, Jebusites.
For sure, yeah.
Mosquito bites, whoever.
Mosquito bite.
It's the
But-
far country.
Perfect.
Yeah, these are far countries.
Okay, yeah.
So not in the promised land. So, let's have the discussion here. Start with the first line.
Well, he's an idiot.
It has never gone well in the Bible. Never once.
Not once. But here we have the same thing. It's God regulating something that isn't the ideal, but He's putting in place this. Can you think of any time that this has happened prior to this? I mean,
That's right.
anything come to mind?
Yeah.
Jacob
Jacob and Esau.
Moses had 2 wives.
See?
At the same time?
He's probably going, yeah.
Well, the one wasn't with him. I think she had gone
Zipporah.
back with Zipporah.
Okay.
Had gone back with her father, and then he married the Ethiopian woman.
Okay. Yeah. It was similar to David, right? I mean, David had so many wives,
Yeah.
but David married while Michael was given to,
Yes.
and then came back and said, "Hey, I kind of want her back." So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Solomon said, "Hey, Dad, I see what you did, and
Yeah.
let's go crazy."
Yeah.
But never worked out well.
Yeah, again, for this firstborn son. I mean, you see,
I actually get that though.
yeah,
I actually get, he's saying, yeah, it's, the firstborn is the firstborn is the firstborn.
exactly,
Period. He's putting a big period on that one, or an exclamation point.
exactly. Because, you know, you go back and you see the problems that were caused prior to this in the families, just unbelievable, this favoritism and stuff among wives and also among children that needs to be kind of nipped in the bud, at least from a legal standpoint. So you know, when you were the firstborn, and they're in the land, right? So when somebody dies, all the land stays in the family.
Right.
So the firstborn got a double portion. So you couldn't favoritism one child because you love that wife more, or even if you love the kid more, number 2 probably you couldn't usurp them either. So all that was in the
So
law.
did Ishmael get a double portion?
Ishmael.
Well, I was
That's
actually-
interesting, but see, that's part
I
of
was
the
actually
law.
thinking about Joseph, because Joseph did get a double portion.
Right.
And he was the son of the loved wife,
That's
you know?
right.
Yeah, so this is all being nipped in the bud now. It's not gonna continue on. The other thing is, Beverly mentioned to me Benjamin got the double portion.
No.
No?
No, she just said that
Joseph, oh, okay,
Joseph got the double portion.
okay.
Because his sons each got
Oh, that's right,
a portion, Ephraim and
Jacob
Manasseh.
did that
okay,
because he loved Rachel.
yeah.
And didn't Jacob switch who he blessed
Yes.
for each
Yeah.
of Joseph's sons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
That's,
usurping.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it before, that's happened multiple times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So in our society, we don't have such a law or anything. It's all done based on the choice of the parent in the
Unless
will.
there's no will, and then there is priority,
Yeah,
goes to the,
But
but it's
that
split
rarely
evenly,
happens.
it's not
Mhm.
given
yeah.
to the oldest.
Yeah, I made
Oh,
sure
there's
mom
no
would give
double
me a
portion.
double portion.
Well, you are more loved.
There you go.
Or some for grandkids.
Can the firstborn daughter get a double portion, by the way? Just asking for a friend.
They deserve it, right? Okay. So, there is a limit. I'm going to read this first part and then I have each of you read some other things. If any man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey his father or his mother, and when they chastise him, he will not even listen to them, then his father and mother shall seize him and bring him out to the elders of the city at the gateway of his hometown. They shall say to the elders, this son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He's a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death, and you shall remove the evil from your midst, and all Israel will hear of it and fear.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I was gonna have my son memorize this.
It's your life verse, son.
I wonder how bad that son's gotta be that the parents are like, you know what? I've had it with you. And I mean, really had it.
This is pretty extreme, isn't it? Can you imagine these parents going through all kinds of things to try to get
I
this?
can't imagine a
right?
parent.
It would only occur.
And that's what I,
It'd only
yeah.
occur one time,
Probably.
and all the other sons say, "Oops."
Yeah, exactly. And now, what happens to the firstborn? Never mind, if he's the firstborn. But would somebody pull up Genesis 4, 2 through 5?
I can do Genesis.
Okay, Leviticus 3:16.
I got it.
Leviticus 7:25. Numbers 15:30. Huh?
I'll do numbers.
Okay. Who had Leviticus 7:25?
I'll do it.
Okay. 1 Samuel 2
I can do that.
and 1 Samuel 4.
I'll get forward.
Okay. So let's start off with Genesis 4, 2 through 5.
And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell.
Okay, so we got the fat portions. Did somebody do Leviticus 3:16?
And the priest shall offer them up in smoke on the altar as food, an offering by fire for a soothing aroma. All fat is the Lord's.
All fat is the Lord's. Leviticus 7:25.
For whoever eats the fat of the animal from which an offering by fire is offered to the Lord, even the person who eats shall be cut off from his people.
Oh,
Okay, so fat's a big deal. Okay, Numbers 15:30.
And this is amplified version, just to let you know. But the person who does anything wrong willfully and defiantly, whether he is native born or stranger, that one is blaspheming the Lord, and that person shall be cut off from among his people, excluding him from the atonement made for them.
So, do you think this son is defiant?
Yeah.
That's pretty extreme defiance, right? Okay, now let's connect all this. 1 Samuel 2.
The whole thing, I guess.
Huh? Yeah, just it has 3 parts there that you pull out.
Okay. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart exults in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth derides my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation.
That's not it.
That's not it. 1 Samuel 2, 13 through 17.
Oh, I was like, the whole chapter?
No.
13 through 17, that makes more sense. I just didn't read the screen. The custom of the priests with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servants would come while the meat was boiling with a 3-pronged fork in his hand, and he would thrust it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. This is what they did at Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Moreover, before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, give meat for the priest to roast, for he will not accept boiled meat from you, but only raw. 17, I'm gonna keep going. And if the man said to him, let them burn the fat first, then take as much as you wish, he would say, no, you must give it now, and if not, I will take it by force. Thus, the sin of the young men was very great in the sight of the Lord, for the men treated the offering of the Lord with contempt. The young man being
This is
Eli's.
Talking about Eli's.
Eli's son.
Eli's sons, yeah. So you did 22 through 23, now do 34.
I should have done 22.
Oh, 22 through 23.
Okay, just keep me on track. All right. Now Eli was very old, and he kept hearing all that his sons were doing to all Israel, and how they lay with the women who were serving at the entrance to the tent of meeting. And he said to them, why do you do such things? For I hear of your evil dealings from all these people. And then 34, 34. And this that shall come upon you, your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, shall be the sign to you. Both of them shall die on the same day.
Okay. Should Eli have done something with his sons according to this law?
See,
See, yes. But he didn't, did he? So, who had 1 Samuel 4:17?
Yeah, four. So this continues the story. It says, then the one who brought the news answered and said, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has been a great slaughter among the people. And your 2 sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been taken. And it happened that when he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell off the seat backwards beside the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for he was old and heavy. And thus he judged Israel 40 years.
Okay, so his son, he did not execute judgment on the sons, and the sons had a really deleterious effect on the society. Now, who knows, you know, most of these towns aren't huge, but if you have a son that is doing this kind of stuff, God says, purge the evil from among you. It's because they will have some effect in their town or city, whatever you want to call it. I remember they called a city, probably had, you know, a few hundred people in it. This was serious business, and Israel was to be different. You didn't just let things fester. And that's really what it is, but it seems really harsh in our world. You know, we would put them in a detention center and try to rehab them, but eventually, you know, if they don't get rehab, they end up in the big house. So, you know, it's a little bit different, but.
I thought it was interesting here that Eli's reaction was not to his sons, but to the ark.
Yeah, that is interesting too. So, but he didn't take care of the business here.
But Samuel had the same problem. His sons were a mess too.
Yeah.
He didn't.
I didn't have enough verses to read.
David too.
David
With
too.
his-
yeah.
It's common.
So it just shows you that, you know, you can't necessarily control everything about how your offspring choose or react. At some point, they're their own people. So hopefully you lay the groundwork and go from there. So you threaten to kill them, and then maybe they straighten up, and, you know.
Perfect, yeah.
You want to go to the gate? Okay, so we'll move on. 22 really has to be about possessions and right relationships and other things. So there's no finders or finders, keepers, losers, weepers allowed, okay, in Israel. So you do have to tend to your neighbor's property if you happen to find it. So you shall not see your countryman's ox or his sheep straying away and pay no attention to them. Can't you say, oh, there's Joe's, you know, ox, and I guess he'll come get it and let it wander off, right? He said, you shall certainly bring them back to your countryman. If your countryman is not near you, or if you didn't know him, then you shall bring it home to your house, and it shall remain with you until your countryman looks for it. Then you shall restore it to them. Okay? Thus, you shall also do that with his donkey. You shall do the same with his garment. You shall do likewise with anything lost by your countryman, which you have lost, which he has lost and you have found. Today, what do? Most places have a lost and found. I once left my phone in a restaurant and had to go back and went, hey, did you guys happen to find this? And they said, oh yeah, they had a little thing back there, and there was my phone, and I got it back. So it's, you know, this is something that in principle we still do in a way. The other thing that you see down here, you're not allowed to neglect your neighbor's property. So you have to take care of them while you have them. And the other thing is, you shall not see your countryman's donkey or his ox fallen away down the way, and pay no attention to them, you shall certainly help him to raise them up. Can you think of any examples of how we do those sorts of things today?
I was thinking something, maybe it's a little humorous, but let's say I saw Bob driving your car around Dallas and you were nowhere to be found. Should I
Yeah.
take the car from Bob and give it back?
Wouldn't be stealing.
After we go for a
Bob.
joyride.
You haven't seen my car. That's no joy. No, I think about, somebody's broken down on the side of the road. And if you have mechanical abilities and can do some things, you see that periodically, or somebody is fixing a tire by the side of the road and whatnot. I see that also out there, and people aren't devoid of these principles now. But you weren't to take your neighbor's property.
So Cain was supposed to be his brother's keeper, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way it's supposed to be in Israel. That wouldn't be common in the surrounding area. So, this may look familiar to you. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat grapes until you are fully satisfied. But you shall not put any in your basket. When you enter your neighbor's standing grain, then you shall pluck the heads with your hand, but you shall not wield a sickle in your neighbor's standing grain. So more about stuff, right? Somebody read Matthew 12, 1 through 7.
I got it.
Okay.
At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry, and they began to pluck heads of grain and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry, and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests? Or have you not read in the law how in the law on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are guiltless? I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. And if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless."
That's right. So did the law say anything about not doing that on the Sabbath?
Nope.
Not a word, did it? We find the leaders of Israel doing this all the time, particularly when it comes to Christ or anybody around.
Yeah, I
So-
think the whole thing, they just took it to the extremes. I mean, even today, I understand, I haven't been over, but that there are certain, there's an elevator stops on every floor because you're not supposed to push the button to get to your elevator. I mean,
That's right.
That's the one I've heard that always just blows my mind.
Because you're not supposed to start a fire. So when you push the button, there's electricity.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reasoning behind that. So kind of crazy, isn't it? So anyway, I just think it's interesting that here's this law in Deuteronomy, and we have the connection with Christ later on. So it kind of connects the story. We can understand a little bit more.
Legalism,
Right?
right there.
Yes.
But that's kind of eating on a daily basis, so you couldn't go gather the person's
Yeah.
food and take it for yourself.
Yeah.
You could eat.
You could take it and get that basket full and sell it if if that was legal.
This is why when I'm picking blueberries, I only pay for the ones that I've gathered.
That's right.
But they did allow
Uh-huh.
some gleaning because Ruth had a basket, I guess.
Yeah, for the widows, and
Yeah.
you can pick up
The poor.
afterwards.
That's why this was here. It's almost taking you're taking things and flipping them over a little bit, because when it was, your neighbor's property came by, you had to take care of it. Here is the owner of the property actually taking care of somebody else. So it's this care of people kind of flipped on its head. Now, you can't do this in the grocery stores. So just know that.
What if I take my dog in there? He just-
People do. Okay, let's talk about money now. So we talked about stuff, let's talk about money. So you shall not charge interest to your countrymen, interest on money, food, or anything that may be loaned at interest. You may charge interest to a foreigner, but to your countrymen you shall not charge interest, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all that you undertake in the land, which you are about to enter to possess. So, no interest charged to their own countrymen. Do you think people that are borrowing something are in need?
It depends.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. I mean, sure, yes, some, but a lot of, especially if you go look at large corporations, you know, with really good lines of credit, they take out credit to grow the business and make more money.
Yeah.
That's what it's all.
And in Israel, you could lend your land out and or do whatever, or borrow against it and even lose possession for a period of time, and then at the end of Jubilee it was supposed to be returned to the family who is the legal inheritors of the land under God's program.
So in Israel, they don't charge interest?
To other Israelites.
Except the Rothschilds.
idea.
No.
Right.
No, they could charge interest to foreigners, but not to each other. So
is that occurring now?
I don't think that's occurring now.
Okay.
I don't know. You know, they never really followed the Jubilee laws either.
Yeah.
Which, from an economic standpoint, if you study economics, there's a thing called the Kondratiyev wave. Okay, so about every 80 years you have a depression. We've been able to stave it off for a while now here, but and you can go back thousands of years and you see this cycle. Okay, because what will happen is people will borrow and borrow and borrow until there's too much borrowing that's taken place, and then it collapses on itself. Could be nearing that. Okay, because God knows how people are, right? He put in Jubilee in Israel, and every 50 years, everything had to be returned. All debt would go away. So instead of continuing to build up, what would happen is you would only lend
Yeah.
to get paid back before Jubilee, right? So debt would go down. So you could start an economic cycle with a lot of debt, and then it would slowly go to zero, and then you could start over. Instead, and have a celebration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we do is we let it build up to where we have a depression, everybody suffers. But that's people versus the wisdom of the Lord. So anyway, just a sidebar. No stealing one's reputation. Now, there's a big section in 22, and a lot of it has to do with sexual conduct and whatnot. This first part I really thought had to do with reputation. So, let me go ahead and read it. If any man takes a wife and goes into her and then turns against her and charges her with shameful deeds and publicly defames her and says, I took this woman, but when I came near her, I did not find her a virgin, then the girl's father and her mother shall take and bring out the evidence of the girl's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. This is probably bloody bed sheets or a gown or whatnot in the Middle East. This is still common, okay? Because we look at that and go, whoa, what kind of evidence, you know? So anyway, so the elders of that city shall take the man and chastise him, and they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give it to the girl's father, because he publicly defamed a virgin of Israel, and she shall remain his wife. He cannot divorce her all of his days. So if he wasn't pleased with her, he could have gone through the divorce proceeding, but now he's stuck. So, but he stole her reputation. And so this is a law that was put in place to reclaim that.
In the South, we handle it a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shekels may not pass, but there is a payment that usually comes due.
Well, I think about, do you guys remember Scooter Libby, you older people? You wouldn't. He was part of the, I want to say Reagan administration that got accused of a lot of things, and a lawfare was brought against him. And all I remember is when he got exonerated in court after about 5 years of just garbage. He goes, "So tell me, where do I go to get my good name back?" And so, you know, here it's hard. You know, people slander all the time. You hear it constantly with the media and everything else. So, anyway, it's important to be honest about what is being said and how it's being said. And Israel's supposed to be different. You couldn't go around doing this sort of thing and getting away with it. But the principle is here. You know, her reputation was sullied and reclaimed. So there's more about this. So purge the evil among you is the tagline on each of these situations. So the girl that we just talked about, what if she was found to not be a virgin and she played the harlot while she was in her father's house? The penalty was death by stoning.
In front of her father's house.
Yeah, well, wherever, you
No,
know.
it was in front, it said in front of the father's house, yeah.
A girl, engaged girl in the city did not cry out. So she's in a town. People would be able to hear her complaining that, hey, this guy's getting after her. Then both her and the man die by stoning. Okay? The other one is the engaged girl, and this is key. Engaged is the same as marriage in the Bible, right? The engaged girl's in a field and she cries out, or could, and nobody heard her, only the man dies. Okay? So that's, you know, these are practically rape situations, right? Or could be. If she didn't cry out, it may not be rape. But anyway, those are the things. And then the last one is the girl's not engaged, so she doesn't belong to anybody. It's not adultery, quote unquote. And the penalty is serious. It's marriage and a fine. So, you know, these are situations that Moses is being instructed by the Lord to put out here. They're not ideal situations, are they? But where's the theft? The theft is you're taking somebody's wife. And so death by stoning is the penalty. That's more serious than paying a fine because you took somebody's, you know, you charged them interest, or you did one of these other things. And it's not about stuff, it's about people.
So let me say this, it's certainly probably not where you're going with any of it, but the girl not engaged, she's not married, she gets violated, as we're saying, okay, so then what they're saying here is she must marry him now, so now they're two?
There's another, well, this is what this section says. If you go back, and I can't remember the verses, there's another place. If the father disagrees that this girl should marry him, then the guy has to pay more of a fine.
So where I was going with all of it is, this is such a mess. Because like the other screen that you were showing before, I mean, the woman and the man, and he doesn't want her anymore, and then she has to go back to him anyway, and all this other stuff. Well, what a relationship is that? I mean, it's just such a mess.
It's very different, isn't it?
They're making such a mess of their lives, and how awful that is.
Yeah.
And God, where's God in any of this? You know, but they think He is because they're so legalistic, and they just lost the whole
The
point.
law was put in place by God's person, so He knew how messy people are. But you know, that's what He wrote.
It's just so discouraging.
So, and then look at the mess we have.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, divorce is very common.
Well,
And
and
this
with
was-
mothers is through the roof, and
Yeah.
But in that society too, everyone would have known of these guidelines for
Oh,
behavior.
sure.
it
So,
was a deterrent as much as.
Exactly.
yeah,
So, then 28 and 29 has always been the hardest for me to just be online with. But it was interesting too, reading recently, I can't remember Absalom's brother, the one who raped Tamar. afterwards, it said he hated her more than he loved her, and he sent her away, and she said, "Do not send me away, for that evil is greater than what you have just done."
Well,
So that was her view of that, of basically, if you send me away, now I can't have an heir, and I'm not a virgin anymore, so I can't.
Culturally, right?
Culturally, it is kind of a protection for the woman to be able to basically, have an heir, which is kind of how a lot of the society functioned. Versus if you don't marry here and everybody's aware of what has gone on, then she would live desolate in her father's house for the rest of her
it
life.
puts her in the same situation as a widow.
Yeah.
If we disappear the guy though.
That's kind of what I read it as. Like, please, can we kill this
Not
guy?
that,
I
not
grew up
that.
in the South and I'm
86
telling you.
86 him.
I struggle
Oh, no.
with that as much as anything, because I think, I've got a younger sister and I'm like, yeah, that would not go well. But again, culturally, if I have to put myself back in that time period and the way that their populations and rules, and I really believe a lot of this was God put these laws out there of, I know you guys are idiots and are going to do some of this, but this is gonna keep it to a minimum.
Yeah.
Because there are consequences, even if I personally don't agree with, especially 28, 29, there are consequences that make this, because family was a big deal, and divorce wasn't rampant like it is in our society where you can do it.
Yeah.
If you got a little money and a lawyer, you can go do it anytime you want to.
Yeah.
I think that was more where he was headed with it was,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take care of them if you do it, but this is, you're gonna have to live in the same house, right? Your wife is now gonna be the woman you raped. Good luck with that if you wake up every morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it expands too to the parents, because David should have enforced 28, 29 with Tamar, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good point.
And the parents, unfortunately, should
Yeah.
kick their son out to be stoned
And-
if he's rebellious.
And you really see with these laws, it's like, these aren't the ideas, this is not what God really wants for them, but he is putting in
Contingencies.
place laws to deal with these situations so that he can regulate those when the ideal doesn't happen.
Deter their action.
That's a good, to echo off of what Beverly had said, is just how many of these other laws were ignored before some of these other things became a problem. I think that's a good thing to highlight, that a number of these are being ignored before they're like bigger and bigger problems. It just keeps spinning out of control.
And it happens in our society too. Things
Absolutely.
get ignored until you got a real problem, right?
Yeah.
It's just common. Okay. Of course, then we get to the example that we hear about in John 8. Okay, so if a man is found lying with a married woman, then both of them shall die. The man who lay with the woman and the woman, thus he shall purge the evil from Israel. So,
And that's assuming it's a mutually desired coupling.
correct. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, and having set her in the center of court, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman is caught in adultery in the very act. Now, in the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women." Is that what it said?
Both.
Both of them.
Both of them.
So it did, they chose to leave part of it out.
Yeah. It was like they diced it and sliced
Yes.
it, right?
They were playing lawyer.
Yeah. So.
Well, and in verse 22, if we're looking at that just says both of them shall die, right?
Correct.
That's interesting too, that they said
Yeah.
specifically that they should stone such women, because
Yeah.
it doesn't say stone.
I think in
verse 22.
context of 22, it probably infers.
Okay, yeah,
Because
maybe.
every example is.
If it doesn't, that's interesting. It's very pharisaical to me to
Yeah.
say this is exactly what the law says.
Well, plus
even
Jesus,
if it wasn't that specific.
Jesus said, then, replies to him, he is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone. So that was commonly known. So would somebody pick up Deuteronomy 17, 6 and 7, and somebody Deuteronomy 19, 15 through 21.
I could say Deuteronomy 17.
Here's
Okay.
6. On the evidence of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses, he who is to die shall be put to death. He shall not be put to death on the evidence of 1 witness. The hand of the witnesses shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. So you shall purge the evil from your midst.
Okay.
A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or for any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses shall a charge be established. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of a wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before the Lord, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. And the rest shall hear and fear, and shall never again commit any such evil among you. Your eye shall not pity. It shall be a life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot.
So Jesus only focused on one of these things, be the first to stone. The first witness is supposed to be the one that throws the stone. There's another thing that's happening here that I think is really interesting. Who are they supposed to go to? The priest, right? Isn't it interesting? Jesus doesn't dispute that at all, because he's the ultimate authority. So they've come to him, so he doesn't go, why didn't you go to the priest? He basically takes responsibility for the situation and then does this. I find that kind of fascinating.
And they were maybe false witnesses, who knows?
Yeah, well, and then, they all walk away. I don't know what he's writing in the sand when we all know this story, right? But when he talks about any false witness would have this be stoned. So, perhaps he's writing something regarding each of them or whatever, or, something that he knows because he's God, that basically lets him know, hey, I know where you're at, kind of thing. I don't know. But it's interesting that they chose this particular one out of all these laws to try and catch him on.
And I think the earliest manuscripts don't have John 8, correct? Or this story specifically in John 8?
I think that's true. It's not in the earliest.
Yeah, it's debated. In most Bibles, you'll see brackets around it.
A lot of people believe that it is a true Jesus story that potentially John didn't write, from what I've heard. But I just wanted to throw the asterisk in there because it's
Good for you.
it's worth throwing an asterisk in.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's interesting. And because it goes along with Deuteronomy 22:22. It's a fascinating situation. Okay, so there's another part. There's a couple verses in here that are different. Okay, they're almost one-offs, just thrown in. It's really about things that shouldn't mix. So this first one, a woman should not wear a man's clothing, nor shall a man put on a woman's clothing. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God.
Good thing that never happens.
Oh, I know. Can you believe that? Things that shouldn't mix. And here it is. We're so sophisticated now, right? Okay, and then he has some other things that are different. You shall not sow your vineyard with 2 kinds of seed, or all the produce of your seed which you have sown, and the increase of your vineyard will become defiled. Isn't that interesting? You should not plow with an ox or donkey together. Well, that makes sense. Sure, probably hurt each other. You shall not wear a material mixed of wool and linen together. You ever wear a cotton shirt and a wool suit? You shall make for yourselves tassels on the four corners of your garment which you cover, with which you cover yourself. Now that one is a little bizarre, but what it does, it marks out that you're an Israeli, that you're Jewish, and it probably it has a signal out there that you're not to mix with these people around you, okay? So anyway, and when you think about the rest of the whole chapter, these things almost serve as a reminder. You're not supposed to mix your stuff with your neighbor's stuff. You're not supposed to mix yourself with your neighbor's wife. You're not supposed to, take your neighbor's money for yourself. There's things that shouldn't be mixed. And that's, in the context of the whole chapter, it kind of makes sense. That's the only way I can make sense of it. So, we're almost done, and I'm going to cruise through this. You've got a few minutes. Okay, the assembly of the Lord. Don't confuse the assembly of the Lord with the community, okay? The community is different, okay? So you can be part of the covenant community and not be able to participate in the feasts and the festivals, which is what the assembly is about, okay? So you might be an Israeli eunuch, or you might be somebody who was born in Israel, but you were illegitimate. You weren't allowed to take part in the feasts and festivals. The other thing is, and up to the 10th generation, which in the way they view that is forever, okay? So the Amorite and the Moabite shall not enter the feasts and the festivals. So do you know any Moabite person who probably was affected by this? Ruth. If they were really obeying this at the time Ruth was around, she wasn't allowed to go to the feasts and festivals. Pretty interesting thought. So
think about that, because none of their descendants, so who's her descendant but David?
David.
yeah,
A fourth generation.
Says to the 10th generation.
yeah. Which in the way this is written, that really, from an
Forever.
Israeli, from a Hebrew standpoint, that would mean forever. Okay.
So they didn't follow it.
No, obviously not.
Follow anything.
Anyway, you can see this. Okay. Now the Edomite and Egyptian,
That's a good point.
they could participate at the third generation. Now think about it. When somebody enters your country, what do you think's happened by the third generation?
He was assimilated.
They've assimilated for the most part.
Well, and Christy was saying, that Ruth married into, just like we just read earlier, they shake their head and all that stuff, and they become part of the nation. So I gotta.
They're
think
part of
that-
the covenant community. They are not part.
So-
They're not supposed to be in the assembly.
Kind of on that note, are you sure it applies the same way for men and women? Like if a
There's
Moabite,
nothing in the scripture that says any different.
yeah,
But if they
it's just-
marry and they become, man, it's interesting. I
They
don't
can be
care.
part.
well, because Jesus was a descendant.
Just because you're part of the community, the covenant community, does not mean you're allowed to go to the feast and festivals.
So Jesus
Two
wasn't
separate.
allowed to go to the feast and festivals.
Huh?
So it was Jesus.
He went.
He
went.
did, but he was a descendant of
He was a
Ruth.
descendant, yeah.
So did Jesus
So
break the law of
obviously,
Moses?
that was a law that didn't get followed.
Well,
Think
no,
about
or
this
we're
one.
misinterpreting it. 'cause
That's
I don't
what I
think
think.
Jesus would have broken the law, because that screws up a whole lot of different things.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I never
So-
thought of that.
I think
Yeah.
Jesus did not break the law
I
of Moses.
tend to agree.
And so, if we are saying the 10th generation meant completely, then I
He
think we're
was-
missing something.
He was within the 10th generation.
I think he was,
Yeah,
regardless
so
of how we
too.
look at it. So,
Is that right?
I'm not 100% sure.
That's something to
We're just
test.
interpreting something wrong.
But I think we're missing something, and what made sense to me was
That's
the
interesting.
woman marrying in versus the men,
Yeah.
the male line, like keeping the name.
Yeah.
Basically, is what is the difference between the men and the women on that side. But I don't know.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
It's
Hebrew
interesting.
culture, did you trace it through either the
We'll have to investigate that, maybe I'll try and come back.
And
with
on that note.
Yeah. We are out of time. One last thing though, that I think is important. Slaves. Now, there's a section in here about what the military's doing, okay? If a slave escaped his master, he was to come live with them.
They're trying to get in.
Yeah. The last thing. We have people that come here for asylum, but they have to qualify for asylum. I think this is what's going on here with the slave. So anyway, all right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.